although people might look like a swan, believe me, underneath the water, our legs are paddling faster than you may know.
I've realised that actually people want you to be your authentic self. Yeah. And when you turn up to work as your authentic self, actually people connect with you a little bit more. Yeah. Hold women better, they're holding all of these other people, the more sustainable our whole world can be.
So to kick us off, can you both tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
I'm a health researcher, so I work in the NHS BSA on women's health and issues that affect women and their families. And my background is in academic research as well, so I've worked on a number of different services, so addictions and sort of suicide prevention. And what I would say is, in terms of listening to sort of women's stories and women and their families, women often do a really invisible but really meaningful job of sort of carrying the load for everyone around them, and this is despite sometimes experiencing these periods of grief and trauma, and for me that's a really important piece of kind of research to really take forward and design services appropriately for, and make sure that we pay sort of women back for carrying that invisible load. So that's a little bit about me.
So I have been working within the user-centred design team, leading them, all aspects of design, looking at how we can better design our services end-to-end in terms of the user, their experience throughout it, leading the community of designers within the NHS BSA, and really just focusing on, the services and how they matter to that person at their point of entry, what they might be going through, and looking at, how we can really improve their experience with us.
Yeah, because processes aren't just about systems, are they? They're about people. So what do you think about that?
For me, I think that especially in a modern sort of workforce, and thinking about the introduction of AI and all of these new technologies that are coming in, when we think about those human-centred skills that women are often, we're primed for from being children, like look after the emotional needs of others, connect with others, anticipate what they might need. When we think about those skills and we compare them to AI and what can't be replaced by computers and technology, for me, those skills in the workplace are really crucial in sustainability and the workforce. And as women, we should be really proud of that as skills. And the work that I do in terms of my research is really honing into those emotional skills and really trying to use that to tell the story of women that are coming in contact with our services as well. So I personally do think that that's a real asset for women, and we should be really, really proud that that's the skills that we have.
Mm-hmm. I think from the flip side as well, in terms of the people that are actually designing and implementing these services, I do a lot of work outside of the NHS BSA, working with universities, young girls in schools around STEM subjects, getting them into those technology areas, and really encouraging them to work with those emerging technologies that we have to work with now as part of our role. It's really rewarding to be able to work with those young girls and encourage them to get into a role that is predominantly male orientated. I think that a lot of STEM subjects are traditionally took up by men, and I think over the last decade or more probably, the emergence of women and young girls in those roles has really started to flourish, and I think I'm really proud to be able to contribute to getting young girls into those subjects too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think we see that in the NHS BSA as well, where we are like 60% women in the workforce.
And I think as well, like going back to this kind of issue, this subject around kind of emotional skills, I think previously, certainly like historically, there's been this like argument where there's like emotion on one side and logic on the other. And modern workplaces, they really value sort of emotional intelligence. And I think certainly the work that I do around health research and making sure systems kind of hold women that are carrying all of these invisible jobs and invisible roles, making sure that we can really read into those skills and use those skills as an asset. I think previously in business context, sometimes emotions have been used to almost like kind of underpower women, like in terms of, you know, you're emotional, hysterical. And I think actually now modern workplaces know that those skills are, they're not soft skills, like they are crucial to business. They are crucial to getting work done and negotiating. So I think there's been a cultural change, and I certainly see that within the NHS BSA around valuing emotional intelligence and those other skills.
Yeah, so to that end then, like if you were talking to a woman or a young girl at the start of their career, if they haven't started thinking about their career yet, like what advice would you give them?
A lot of the women and young girls that I work with struggle with self-belief of stepping into a world that is predominantly male orientated, and I think, you know, to that I would just say just go for it. I think everyone experiences imposter syndrome, like myself as a leader now, as a woman in the position that I'm in, and I very often kind of think, you know, someone's going to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, you know, game's up, we're done, you know, you've been busted. But actually that's not the truth, and I think, you know, the evidence is within the work that you do produce, and there is a lot of value being placed now on what women can bring to the workplace, and I think that is put in a very high stead at the NHS BSA, and I think that's something that we are all proud of.
100%, and I think we're helping to facilitate that as well through the work we do with the Women's Network. So yeah, Hannah, what advice would you give?
I think sort of linking to the education and sort of skills development aspect of that. Personally, you know, I'm a granddaughter of a cleaner from North Ormsby in Middlesbrough, which is one of the poorest estates in the UK. And I'm just about to submit my PhD, and I've only been able to get to where I am in my career because of things like part-time working, support, flexible working. I think sometimes people have really put like you can have your career or you can have your family, and I've actually found that since having my children I've developed more confidence and I've been able to progress more. So you can have those things if you've got systems that support you and kind of help take some of those barriers away from you. You can really achieve those things, and working part-time for me, it's crucial to help me manage my family life and my academic work. And this is what I really love about the NHS BSA in terms of we really get that stuff. We really see that actually that brings so much value to the work within the NHS BSA and vice versa. So I'm really passionate about like the women's development kind of scheme, because actually I would not be where I'm at now if it wasn't for part-time working and flexible working.
I think the NHS BSA really opens the doors for women to be able to network in that aspect. So obviously the Women's Network, I've been involved in the Women's Springboard programme, Women in Technology. I'm due to go up to Blackpool in a few weeks' time around getting young girls into STEM subjects and a big event that's going on there. And, you know, the NHS BSA really empowers you to be able to do that alongside your working role and your other responsibilities. We do volunteering days here, of which I've used to, you know, help young women get GCSEs, which is really empowering and something to be proud of, I suppose. But yeah, I think, you know, for those young girls and women that you say, you know, what's their advice, I would just say speak to other women and ask them what their experience is, because although people might look like they've got it all together, no one feels that way, and I think that's what you really experience when you actually just have the courage to ask someone, you know, like, what are you doing and how have you got here and how are you finding it? And, you know, I think the power of communication can really help open those doors and progress you to where you want to go.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, Paige, I look at you like moving into this like leadership position, and I'm really in awe of you actually, because and just hearing the way you talk as well, when we're in our meetings and everything, you do come across, and I know you are very put together and you know exactly what you're doing, but it's reassuring actually to know that you do have those moments of self-doubt, because I always do. So to hear that, it's like oh, actually if I'm not on my own.
No, absolutely not. And I think, you know, there's certain things that you feel like you can do with your eyes closed. Like, everyone has those strengths in them, and you can really play to those. But it's okay to acknowledge, you know, that everyone also has weaknesses. And if I'm about to do something, or about to embark on a project or a meeting or whatever it might be that I'm not necessarily comfortable with, I will go and speak to someone, you know, and I still do that. I encourage everyone to do that, no matter what level they're working at, because, you know, we're better together, you know, people help people. And you will find, you know, that if you do reach out and do ask those questions, it might be daunting at first, but once you get the knack of just getting over, you know, I'll just send them a quick message, you know, like people are very responsive to you. And although people might look like a swan, believe me, underneath the water, our legs are paddling faster than you may know. So, yeah, everyone's in that position.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because I think when I certainly started my career, I always kind of felt like I had to act like corporate Hannah and be like, you have to go to work, this is who you should be, you know, suits and all this kind of stuff. And as my career's gone on and I've got more confidence, I've realised that actually people want you to be your authentic self. And when you turn up to work as your authentic self, actually people connect with you a little bit more. And certainly in terms of the health research that I do, a big part of what we have to show our stakeholders is it's about storytelling. It's about who are you as a person, and how are you going to put this across. And if you're trying to act like corporate X, you can't do that. You can't be relatable and personable. And I think that really comes across in your research playbacks, that really comes across in presentations. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Paige, in terms of just connect with people and, you know, be really honest and authentic and be like, I actually don't know. Like, it's okay not to know everything. It's okay to be a learner. Like, we're all learning. And when your goal is experience, everything's a win. So I think if you can kind of hold on to that, and I wish someone would have told me that years ago, because I mean, I remember being in meetings and trying to act like I knew things, and then afterwards just feeling really awkward and being like, and if I'd have just been like, actually, I don't know about X and that's okay, that meeting would have been very different. But, you know, sustainability, if we think about that in the workplace, it's the long game, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's years of your career that you build up these skills and these experiences.
Yeah, in all of you as well, like all the work that we do, it's amazing. So Women's History Month is about shaping a sustainable future. And we've talked about so many amazing things that we as women do. What are the key things for us moving forward?
I think for me, in terms of my work within listening to women's health research, women's health stories within the research that I do, it really brings it home that actually, despite experiencing some of these really difficult situations, life-changing situations, women are often doing emotional labour, care work, and all of these invisible things that systems often don't even recognise, and they don't even take account of what they're doing. So for me, sustainability is making sure, like when I think about sustainability, we need to make sure that what systems and workplaces are really going to feed that back to them. And actually some of these invisible barriers, like my work really is about making that visible and making sure that we have something tangible at the end of it as well. You know, it's all great listening to these stories, but what are we going to do at the end of it? And making sure that that goes into like a service design change that actually is going to hold women better. And the more that we hold women better, that are holding all of these other people, the more sustainable our whole world can be. And I really just think that there's this concept of women being the engine of the home. And when I was a support worker, I often used to say to people, you are the engine of the home. Like, if you don't run, all of these people don't run. But I think there can be quite a lot of guilt around looking after yourself. And I think what we can do in terms of designing services and systems is make sure we pay that back to women that are doing all of this work as well, and really kind of hammer home that message that you can look after yourself, and actually looking after yourself is key to sustainability of everyone, essentially. So that's what I take from it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about really driving the future of what being a woman in the workplace looks like, and women in leadership, women in any role really, the value that you can bring and the flexibility of working at the NHS BSA. I think, you know, it's about empowering women to be able to contribute while also still managing everything else that's going on. And I think especially from our perspective, in the delivery of services and, you know, that end-to-end experience for the users that encounter service at the NHS BSA is really about, you know, how do we showcase the skills that we've got and encourage people to have the progression that they want in their careers, whilst also allowing them the flexibility to still live their lives and, you know, commit to those other things that are invisible. But I think that we do that really well here.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we really hold ourselves accountable as well, with the Colleague Experience Social Impact team, looking after the lived experience networks, but particularly in the women's space, like holding ourselves accountable by creating that women's health strategy and committing to it, the women's development programme, all the work we do in the social mobility space as well, and supporting those pathways into employment, staying in employment, whilst taking into account everything else that we have to think about and do. We've definitely made a really good start, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, because I just think it's going to be great.
Women are valued at the NHS BSA and what we can bring, and, you know, women empowering other women to be able to have access to that progression. And, you know, myself, I'm a great advocate as a leader to be able to empower those other women to be able to feel like they can do it. You know, I've spoken to people who have great fear in announcing that they're pregnant or coming back from maternity leave, and actually there's nothing to be scared of. Like, you're still you just have another plate to spin, or, you know, and that can be daunting and it can be exhausting, but with the right support networks and structures in place that the NHS BSA allow you to have, I'd say the sky's the limit, really. You can go as far as you want.
And I think for me, that point about returning from maternity leave, I remember when I was coming back, my husband had always worked full time, and when I was going to come back, I was going to go from 3 days to 4 days, and the first thing that my mum said to me was, "What about your son?" And I was like, has anyone said that to my husband? Like, he's worked full time since he was born and no one's ever seen that. And I think culturally we have to kind of respect that women have these other cultural things, whether that be from kind of this traditional working class background of the man goes out to work and the woman stays at home, or whether that be from other kind of intersectional issues. There's a lot of guilt that's placed on women about returning to the workplace, and what I really love to do is to really push forward. Actually, I wouldn't be the researcher that I am now and be able to look into the emotions and the psychology behind a lot of these women health experiences if I hadn't had my children, because it's allowed me to see things from a different perspective. Like, I've got the lived experience of having sleepless nights and understanding. I've wore that with a badge of pride. But yeah, I've been there and I understand that lived experience. I understand how difficult it is to like drag yourself in every day. And I think really being like that whole, you can do it, and framing returning to work with children as a real, like a really positive thing, rather than actually you're going to be limited in X, Y, and Z, and be like, look what it's brought me. It's brought me, it's brought me these skills.
And not just for yourself as well. I think for your children, like, I have a daughter who, I want to show her that I can, and I am, completely. And I will, and so can you. Like, I want her to look up to being a woman and see it, as we can do it all, and we will do it all, and we are doing it all. And, I think that's what we should be aspiring to be as women.
That's been so insightful. Thank you so much. It's been lovely speaking to you today.
Likewise.
Thanks so much. It's been an honour. Thank you.